Wes Craven, who died recently of brain cancer, was one of the most influential horror film writer-directors of all time. His intelligence, sense of humor, and wit were often just as cutting as his monstrous villains. I've seen the majority of his work, but my rankings will be just of the non-sequels, but I will also mention the follow-ups directed by him as well. So here they are, ranked in order of my preference for them. Number 12, Cursed. I'm hoping that someday we find a secret director's cut that just reveals a completely different movie. What we have at the moment is an absolute disaster. It just seems like everyone was just wanting to fulfill their contractual obligations and then just move on. So let's do that as well. Number 11, Vampire in Brooklyn. For all its corniness, I still like it. I think its lasting negative reputation is probably due to falling very short of the high expectations that it had 20 years ago. I'm not saying it's good, I'm just saying that not enjoying it probably means taking life a little bit too seriously. Number 10, Shocker. A much younger and more easily impressed me freaking loved this movie. It's cheesy, subversive, not that good, and it doesn't care what you think. Plus it has a just rockin' soundtrack that perfectly fits the tone and the era. Number 9, Swamp Thing. I loved this as a kid, and not just for the gratuitous nudity of Adrienne Barbeau. Later I read the excellent Alan Moore run of the comic book, and so I decided to revisit the movie. Unfortunately, but unsurprisingly, it did not hold up, with the exception of Barbeau. Number 8, My Soul to Take. I watched it for the first time a few days after Craven died, so I'll admit I viewed it with more forgiving eyes. Regardless, I still enjoyed it. It had good parts, bad parts, cliched parts, but also unique parts. It's more solid than I expected based upon the other reviews. Number 7, The Serpent and the Rainbow. Now we're getting to the good stuff. It was definitely scarier as a kid when I believed in the supernatural, but it's still terrifying today, even without the suspension of disbelief. Whether you're claustrophobic and or you find the religious more frightening than religion, and or you have a scrotum, this one will definitely terrify. Number 6, The People Under the Stairs. Perhaps the most bizarre film by Craven is genre-bending and has a twisted sense of humor, and at times it feels more like a David Lynch universe and characters. Also, the social commentary is as relevant, if not more so, today. Number 5, Red Eye. The best of Craven's later works, the pacing is excellent, the narrative is tight and never drags, thanks in large to the quality performances by Murphy and McAdams. The trailers really didn't do it justice, so be sure to check this one out if you missed it the first time around. Number 4, The Hills Have Eyes. Today's audiences may find it a bit tame, but part 1 is disturbing and excellent in the lineage of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But as good as part 1 is, part 2 is that much and more on the terrible side. To give you an idea, there's so many flashback scenes to part 1 that even a dog has one. Number 3, The Last House on the Left. One of the most brutal movies I'd ever seen at the time, and based upon my memory still is, even though I haven't seen it in a decade or so. But still, there are multiple scenes vividly still stuck in my mind, and they're not there necessarily because of their initial shock value, but more troubling because of a type of beauty that permeates the horribly violent acts. Number 2, Scream. By the mid-90s, mainstream American horror, especially the slasher film, was dead. Scream resurrected them both, broke the rules, added some new ones, and crafted a template to be imitated by Hollywood in the following years. I enjoyed all of the sequels, and a strong argument could be made for this taking the number 1 spot, but I'm going with the unsurprising choice. Number 1, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy Krueger goes on the Rushmore of horror movie franchise villains, and he may be the single most terrifying one of them all. Appropriately, as a kid, no other monster gave me as many nightmares as Freddy. Thanks to a cosplayer, my son is scared of Freddy, and he's never even seen any of the movies. The non-Craven sequels each have their moments, but then Craven returned with New Nightmare to show us how it's done. Alright, that's it. As always, I would love to hear what you think, so if you would, let me know in the comments below, and you can also connect with me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Giddens. I'm curious to hear what are your favorite films by the legendary Wes Craven. And I'm also taking suggestions on which filmmaker I should rank next. Until next time, thanks for watching.